I wanted to welcome everyone again to the My Employment Options Job Interview Tips webinar. We are very excited to have you. Some quick technical reminders. All attendees are in listen-only mode automatically. Your audio and video are off so that everyone can focus on the slides. You can even listen in if you can't pull up the slides. Closed captioning is available. To turn on, go to your Zoom toolbar and click the CC Show Captions button. And if you decide to turn off, just click the CC Hide Captions button on the toolbar. And on the next slide, we're going to take some time to tell you a little bit about our company. We wanted to first take a quick moment to tell you about who we are, for those of you who may be here for the first time, and explain a little bit more about My Employment Options, or MEO as we call it, and what we do on a daily basis. I also wanted to mention that our free online events are open to anyone in the general public, even if you do not qualify for our federal program we work in. On a daily basis, My Employment Options is an authorized employment network in the federal Social Security Ticket to Work program. We provide free work at home and on-site job employment services and other free career services to qualified job seekers who receive SSDI or SSI non-retirement disability benefits and who want to try working again, who are ages 18 to 64 and who live in one of the 48 states or Washington, D.C. We serve all states except Alaska and Hawaii. To check out our free services and apply with us if you receive SSDI or SSI, please visit us at myemploymentoptions.com and click Apply Now. For anyone on SSDI or SSI benefits, you may be wondering how My Employment Options can help clients with our free services. We have over 20 years of expertise in helping people with disabilities return to work, and our services are free. We have long-standing employer partnerships, including remote employers. Each client here receives a personal job counselor. We have a certified benefits specialist on staff to guide you. And many staff, like Varana, who is one of our presenters today, are previous Ticket to Work participants, so we can practice the personal touch. Qualified job seekers on SSDI or SSI can work with My Employment Options and use their Ticket to Work to receive many services. MEO provides our clients on SSDI and SSI with free assistance, including resume, interview guidance, one-on-one job counseling, long-term career support, and more. Your presenters today will be myself, Ann Settle. I am an employment counselor here at My Employment Options, and I assist our clients in the Ticket to Work program find mainly work-at-home positions in the 48 states. And I've been with My Employment Options for 7 years. Our second presenter is Varana Sams. Varana is an employment counselor who also helps our clients in the Ticket to Work program find remote and community jobs in the 48 states that we serve. Varana's coming up on her 5th year anniversary. So congratulations, Varana.
Thanks, Ann.
Our webinar main topic is interview tips. On the next slide, you can see the main points that Verona and I will cover today. Job interviews are a major part of the employment process, and today's topics include research and preparation before the interview, proven successful interview skills during the interview, positive follow-up with the employer after the interview. And at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Verona to get started.
Thank you so much, Ann. Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you today. Let's get started with some successful interview tips that we've put together for you. Once you've been chosen to interview for a job that you've applied for and congratulations are in order, what are the next steps to ensure that your interview is a successful one? How do you prepare, present, and follow up? Those are the questions Ann and I will be answering for you today on this webinar. Being chosen for an interview is an exciting and perhaps nerve-wracking time in some cases, after having applied for countless jobs. The good news is that you didn't give up, and finally, you've been chosen to enter the next phase of the application process. From a pool of qualified candidates, you've impressed the recruiter or hiring manager on paper. Now it's time to close the loop with an in-person or virtual interview. Let's take a look at the important steps for successful interviews. Important steps for successful interviews can be broken up into 3 phases: preparation, actions taken to prepare prior to the interview, tips to be practiced during the presentation phase of the interview, and actions suggested to close the loop after an interview. Ann and I will drill down into the details of each of these phases with suggestions, examples, and helpful hints that will help you feel confident about your interview being a successful one. And we'll get us started with our tips on researching the company.
Thank you, Verona, for breaking down this, showing the steps to a successful interview. So first, you'll want to research all you can about the company and position. Usually in the About Us on the employer's website, you'll find their mission, vision, and company culture. Also, make sure to check out the employer website, as you may be asked what you know about the company. And this is a way that you can use what you've discovered to demonstrate your knowledge of the company during the interview. Glassdoor and Indeed are great places to find information as well. Something to keep in mind: almost all companies may have a negative remark. It could be an angry employee, so use your best judgment. Next, we're going to focus on researching the position. You will want to relate your skills and abilities to those required in the job description. Try to have some examples of experiences in your job history that tie into the position that you're interviewing for. Focus on the keywords in the job description. You can use those during the interview as strengths that would help make you a good asset for the company. This preparation will help you present yourself and your abilities as a strong candidate. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Verona. She's going to discuss some skill sets.
The key to confidence in your delivery is knowing your skill set. When you know it well, you can communicate it well. Refer to your resume for the qualities that make you a great candidate for the job you're interviewing for. Identify your top 3. We've given 3 examples on this slide that speak to effectiveness, ability, and skill. So the examples are effective communication skills, ability to work independently, and skilled technical writer. So, Anne, how do we take this a step further with an elevator pitch?
Sure. You may be familiar with the phrase elevator pitch. It is a brief 30-second statement that encompasses who you are, what you do, and what your skill set is, and how you acquired it. So basically, a little bit about who you are, how you got there, and your passion as it relates to your career goals. What's your ask? Why are you sharing your statement? In this case, it's an effort to get a job. So here we have an example of what a 30-second elevator pitch should sound like. And I'll just use my name and this company as the fill-in. Hi, my name is Ann Settle. I am a skilled project manager with a proven track record of delivering complex initiatives on time and within budget. In my last role at MEO, I led a team that successfully implemented and streamlined workflow, resulting in a 25% increase in project efficiency. I am passionate about driving results, and I am eager to bring my project management expertise to a forward-thinking team like yours. So we should always have a 30-second elevator pitch ready, and don't forget to time it. On the next slide, Verona will explain the STAR technique and give an example.
The STAR technique is helpful and frequently used to answer behavioral questions so that you don't overshare and your answer is clear and to the point. It's possible to talk ourselves into a job during an interview and then talk ourselves out of it by going beyond what's necessary to answer the question being put before us. Let's review each aspect of using the STAR technique. So S, situation, fill in the details of the specific event. T is for task, explain your responsibility in that situation. A is for action, describe how you accomplished the task. And R for result, state the impact of your actions. Now, let's take a look at a detailed example on the next slide. Here's an example of how the STAR technique can be used to respond to the behavioral question. Tell me about a goal you achieved and how you achieved it. The situation is working as a project manager. The task is the responsibility of ensuring that everyone was working towards the same goal. The action is effectively managed resources needed to project completion for project completion, including staff, equipment, and capital. And the result is completed project in half the time budgeted. So the answer using the STAR technique would sound like this. When I worked as a project manager, I was given the responsibility of ensuring that everyone was working towards the same goal. I effectively managed resources needed for project completion, including staff, equipment, and capital. I completed the project in half the time budgeted. So let's take a quick recap. At this point in the preparation phase, we would have researched the company and the position, identified the qualities that make you a great candidate for the position, used them to build the elevator pitch, and we have just completed practicing a response using the STAR technique to deliver precise answers. Now, let's move on to the next slide to determine if the job is a good fit for you. Interviews are a two-way street. While the interviewer is determining if you are a good fit for the position, this is your opportunity to determine if the position is a good fit for you. Is this position that you have an interest in? Pay attention. If this is a position that you have an interest in, pay attention to how you feel when you're reading the job description or reviewing the website. Ask yourself, just how interested are you in this position? Your enthusiasm or lack of is sure to show up in your verbal and nonverbal communication during the interview. Is it a job that you would be comfortable doing at your current skill level and feel good about? Is it a job that you can do without reasonable accommodations, or will accommodations be needed in order to successfully do the daily task of the job? These are important questions, and the answers will determine your success with doing the job and whether or not it's a good fit for you. Getting an answer to the question, is there growth potential with the organization, is important to know. I like using the example, are you okay with just being in the theater? Or would you like an opportunity to work your way onto the stage? If so, you need to know if they even have the stage that you ultimately are seeking to work your way onto. These are questions that you may not get the answers to until your interview. It's important to go into the interview knowing the questions that you need answered to determine if the job really is a good fit for you. Let's talk a bit about the preparation of questions for your interview. In this stage of the preparation phase, based on your research of the company and job description, it's time to formulate 3 or 4 questions that you would like the answers to. Typically, with most interviews, you will be given an opportunity at the end of the interview to ask questions. Here are some examples of possible questions you can ask regarding the day-to-day responsibilities of the role, the working culture of the organization, possible growth and training opportunities, and the interviewer's career path within the company. During the interview, be sure to pay close attention so that you are aware if any answers to your questions are covered. If any of your prepared answers were answered, take that question off the table. Don't ask it. If the interview was so thorough that all of your questions were covered, it is okay to say something similar to, I did have questions, but you did such a thorough job, you've already answered them. Now, let's talk about copies of documents. For interviews that are conducted in the community, in person, it is also very important to be document ready. Have copies of the following printed and placed neatly in a folder or portfolio: your resume, recommendation letters, and a printout of your references. The recruiter or hiring manager most likely will bring your documents to the interview, but if they don't, or if someone else joins the interview, be prepared with additional copies. For virtual interviews, Anne will provide some tips later on in the presentation, but for now, she'll help us with tips for dressing for success.
Getting a sense of what the dress code is for the work culture that you're interviewing for will definitely help your decision regarding how to dress for success for your interview. Here are some tips on dressing for success. View the company's website for an ideal of their dress code: formal, business attire, or business casual, nice but comfortable, professional and neat, and light on the fragrance. The photo on the slide shows a variety of acceptable professional styles for formal and business casual interviews. Feeling good about how you look has an effect on your delivery when interviewing. If you look good, you feel good, and that conveys confidence and competence. Doing your research will help with projecting an image that matches the company culture. Another helpful hint to keep in mind regarding fragrances is that some companies are fragrance-free. If that is the case, you certainly want to be respectful of that. If the person interviewing you has allergies, conducting the interview would become very difficult if overwhelmed with the fragrance, and it probably wouldn't leave a good impression. For virtual interviews, my suggestion is to dress as if you're going out for an interview. Although virtual, the effect will still be the same. So at this point, you've already impressed the recruiter or hiring manager with your skill set. Now is your chance to impress them with the way that you chose to dress for success. It will be an indicator of what they can expect if you join the team. So now let's discuss some different interview formats. So here we'll be speaking about virtual interviews, also known as work from home, which we will be referring to as WFH in the slides going forward. This is an opportunity to show that you can follow instructions. When you are invited to an interview, you will receive a detailed email outlining all the steps that you need prior to the interview. It is very important that you read the email very carefully. You may be asked to send information prior to the interview. Following instructions is essential. Also, virtual interviews may be conducted in a different time zone that is different from yours. If you're unsure of the time difference, you can Google or confirm that with your interviewer. Missing an interview because of this mistake could indicate that you are not paying attention to details. This may also cause the interviewer to think that you're not serious about the position. So be sure to read your email several times if you need to ensure that there's no misunderstanding or misinformation. Now, before your interview begins, check your computer. Make sure that it's plugged in. You don't want to have your computer battery low. Familiarize yourself with your computer and make sure that you know how to navigate your audio and camera settings. If needed, run a system check to make sure that your computer is compatible with the interviewing format being used. The email will provide the program and other details needed to access the virtual room for the interview. Make sure that you test the program ahead of time and download it if needed. Be prepared. 5 minutes before the interview is not the time to prepare. You may want to even test the link the night before and the day of the interview. Sign in 10 to 15 minutes before. Inform your family not to interrupt you during your interview. And if you have pets, maybe place them in another part of the house and close your windows for outside distractions. Some other helpful tips: treat your virtual interview the same way that you would a face-to-face interview. Be professional, dress appropriately, even if it is on webcam. Make sure that you turn your cell phone off and think about your surroundings and what the interviewer will see behind you. Try to position your computer so that the interviewer only sees a wall or a divider as your background. During the interview, show that you're engaged by keeping your attention on the camera and not looking away. This allows eye contact with the interviewer. If you tend to look at the screen, it appears to the interviewer that you're looking down. And another little helpful tip: when interviewing and you get stuck for words, hang a piece of paper at camera level behind your computer so you can glance at keywords when needed. Let's talk a little bit about who will be sitting on the other side of the table for your interview and the format. It may be a one-on-one phone or webcam interview. a one-on-one face-to-face interview, a panel interview. That usually consists of hiring manager, team members, or possibly even someone from HR, or a group interview where multiple candidates are interviewed together. If possible, find out in advance what type of interview you're being invited to, just so you have an idea of what to expect and how to prepare. Often, the invitation to the interview, you will find the details of the recruiter or hiring manager you'll be interviewing with. Although that may not always be the case, and it may not always be possible to know the format in advance, so it's a good idea to be prepared no matter which format you walk into. It can be unnerving to go before several people when you thought you were having a one-on-one interview. So expect that it could be either of the four that I outlined in the slide. One of the tips that I consistently use and recommend is to remember that an interview is just a conversation, whether one-on-one, panel, or group. Focus on the person that is speaking to you in that moment, one person at a time. Okay, so now that you know what to expect, Verona is going to discuss mapping out a route that refers to community and some other good tips.
Okay, so a part of the preparation process for a community interview is also mapping out your route. Use a mapping program to find the best route. Check schedules for public transit. Do a practice run to find the location. In the age of technology, mapping programs are wonderful with finding the best route to get where we need to go. However, program glitches do happen. We want to prepare beyond any possible glitches. So after mapping out your route, you want to test it with a practice run so that you can adjust the time that you leave for the interview if need be. Also, it's not a bad idea to map out an alternate route, just in case. Here's an additional tip. When conducting your practice run, do it at the same time of day that your interview is scheduled so that you encounter the same traffic pattern. Also, just as a reminder, arrive 15 minutes early for your interview. Although we want to arrive early, we don't want to arrive too early and just be sitting around for an extended period of time. On your practice run, notice if there is a coffee shop, fast food place, library, or a bookstore nearby, so that if you get there earlier than 15 minutes, you have a place to sit, relax, focus, and review your resume before walking in for your interview. Cool, calm, and collected. Now, let's talk about first impressions. Many of us have heard about the power of the first impression. Be professional, but genuine. Remain in a positive posture, even when things don't go according to plan. Even if your commute doesn't go smoothly, or the recruiter is running late for your interview, or the receptionist is rude. Don't allow any external experiences on your way to your interview affect the first impression that you give. And that is not just with the interviewer, but with everyone you come in contact with, especially within the organization. From the custodian to the CEO, you don't know who's who and the influence they may have on the one who will ultimately make the decision regarding your hire. Be very intentional about remaining in a positive frame of mind in spite of obstacles. What will be most important is that you made it to your interview in spite of any obstacles encountered. That's a win and something to feel good about. Your natural smile. Smiling comes in different forms for different people. Whatever your natural way of smiling is, do that, whatever that is for you. Smile in a way that is authentic and complimentary to you. Eye contact is a central form of nonverbal communication that says a lot. It is speaking, even when we're not. Our eye contact tells on us what we really feel about ourselves or about the communication we're picking up from the interviewer. Eye contact with your interviewer communicates authenticity, and confidence. When you greet the interviewer, typically we would suggest that you initiate with a handshake. However, since COVID-19, and because it's still real, not everyone will be comfortable shaking hands. Take the lead from your interviewer and ask if they are comfortable with a handshake. Remember, just as your eye contact speaks, so does your body language and handshake. You want them all to speak confidence. Let's dive a little into what the employers are looking for. During your interview, there will be some areas of interest, questions that the employer is looking to answer directly or indirectly, verbally or non-verbally. They will want to know, are you dependable? Can you be depended upon to not just be at the job, but do the job well, delivering accurately, consistently, professionally, and on time? Will you be a long-term employee? It costs the employer time and money to recruit, hire, onboard, and train an employee. So they may be looking to rule out those that appear to be short-term candidates. In other words, and in some cases, job hoppers. Can you do the job? A recruiter will be looking to determine if you have the skills and abilities to do the job. And even if you aren't an exact match, are you flexible enough and willing to learn what you need to know to be successful in the position? And number 4, do you have a genuine interest in their company? Employers are looking for motivated, enthusiastic employees. That will come across in your verbal and nonverbal communication. In some cases, you won't be excited about every aspect of the job you're interviewing for, but draw your motivation from the aspects of the position that do excite you. Let's cover some potential interview questions. Our first interview question is, what were your responsibilities in your previous job? And a tip is be position focused. Match skills used in your previous job with skills needed in this position. For a laser-focused answer, refer back to the results of your research during the researching the position prep phase. The STAR technique and your elevator pitch can be helpful with drafting your answer to this question also. Write it out and practice it until it flows in a way that's natural to you. Another common interview question is, what are your weaknesses? And a tip for this question is mention skills you have improved or turn a negative into a positive. This can be a difficult question, but you want to keep it light and on the surface. Describe to the employer your initial level of functioning, identified as a weakness. Discuss what you have done to improve this area, and then reference your current improved level of skill. For example, being on deadline to get a project completed, but double and triple checking every item in a spreadsheet can slow the process and become a weakness. However, after implementing some organizational skills, it can be turned into a strength. You are a candidate who will make sure that the project is done on time and your work will be as accurate as possible. Here's an example of an interview response that speaks to managing a weakness and turning it into a positive. Being organized wasn't my strongest area, so I implemented a time management system that significantly improved my organizational skills. See what we did there? Keep it simple. Back to you, Anne. How can you help us with gaps in employment?
Well, with gaps, we want to try to fill those in if at all possible. Tips could be you may have been in school, volunteering, performing the duties of a caretaker for a family member, or managing your household. If you are an individual managing a disability, that family member would be you, taking care of you. Give this answer some thought and practice its delivery during your preparation phase so that you're comfortable delivering the answer smoothly and without skipping a beat. Don't get caught in the weeds with your answer. Keep it short and move on. Tell me about yourself. Remember, this is a business meeting. Focus on things about yourself that align you with the job and the company. Some personal information is fine, such as you've lived in the community for some time or you went to school in the area. And it's also okay to share if you are a customer of the company's products or services and you enjoy them. Although you want to treat the interview as a conversation, you don't want to come off as too familiar with your interviewer. So no matter how easy they are to talk to, you are still being interviewed. What is your desired salary? Do your research prior to, know the salary range for your area and the company, ask the question, but know the answer. What is the salary range for this position? Or you could say, I'm willing to consider your best offer. If specific salary is noted in the job description, make sure that you're within the guidelines of the salary that's being advertised. You don't want to request a salary that's so high that you're outside of the range of what the company is offering and disqualify yourself. But you also don't want to go so low that you devalue what you bring to the table. You can search Indeed and similar platforms to get an idea of the salary range for the company. Doing this research will help you make an informed decision and being confident in doing so. Are you able to perform the essential functions of the position with or without reasonable accommodations? If you can do the job with reasonable accommodations, say yes. This is a legal question that an employer may ask. Stay on the surface. If it's not a job that you can do with reasonable accommodations, it is important for you to be honest with yourself about that. It is also important to accept a position that's a good fit and that the work that you do will allow you to manage your disability and feel successful accomplishing your task. So this leads us to talking about ADA protections. And Veronica's going to take us over who they are and share a link with you for further research on your end if needed.
Thanks, Ann. Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA protects you. You do not have to disclose if you are an individual with a disability. You do not need to request accommodations before or during the interview unless needed for mobility. On applications, there may be voluntary disclosure opportunities for WOTC, which is a work opportunity tax credit given to employers for hiring individuals with disabilities or those with other significant barriers to employment. The key word is voluntary. You get to decide if you want to disclose. Let's cover some questions that are absolutely illegal for a recruiter or hiring manager to ask. Are you disabled? Do you have health problems? How long have you been disabled? Why are you in a wheelchair? It is for your benefit to know the questions that ADA does not allow employers to ask regarding a disability or health situation. We provided the ADA link for your reference. Please check it out periodically and stay up to date. So, Ann, what are work from home recruiters looking for in an ideal candidate?
So let's talk about what soft skills employers are looking for in the ideal candidate. Example, An employee with good time management skills knows how to prioritize tasks and meet deadlines. Effective communication skills will be helpful through the interview process and in your career overall. The ability to communicate involves knowing how you should speak to others in different situations or settings. Problem-solving skills. Those will be a benefit to you every step of your career. Problem-solving. The ability to solve problems effectively as they arise, and they will make you a valuable asset on the job and a highly sought-after candidate. Next, I'll go over some commonly asked questions in an interview. The most common question: why do you feel you would be a good candidate for this position? An example: I am confident that I am good fit for this position for several reasons, especially because of my dedication to going above and beyond in a job. I am committed to learning any new skills on my own to succeed in this role. Or you can add an experience in your last role and add to your answer dependent on your background. And an example could be, I managed a sales team of 5 employees, and we have the top sales record of our company branch. I can bring my successes and experiences to this job. So, have your resume on hand to reference your skills, your expertise, and your experiences. Employers want to hear your confidence and your enthusiasm about the job that you're applying for. For work-from-home interviews that are over the phone, your tone and how well you're able to articulate will go a long way. Also, something that might help you prepare is practice speaking in front of a mirror or with a family member or friend. Sometimes in customer service jobs, we come across a not so happy customer. How do you handle this? When answering this question, be sure to use a relatable example. Do not speak in general terms. Think for a moment before you answer to be sure that you completely understand the question. Examples should be professional and real situations. Recruiters are looking for empathy, understanding of the customer's issue, ability to resolve the customer's issue without having to escalate to a supervisor or manager, and finally, the ability to turn an unhappy customer into a happy customer. And on the next slide, we'll put this into action with the STAR technique. So here is an example of how you can use the STAR technique when giving an example of a time you had a difficult customer. The situation is the customer was unhappy about a fee on their account. The task, you're wanting to find out what happened. In this case, a child purchased a movie ticket without permission. The action you want to give, or this person in general gave a credit for the movie, and they also set up a PIN number for the account to prevent any other unauthorized charges. The result, the customer was happy, especially with the added security. Oftentimes, another common question in an interview, why are you leaving or have left your job? Could have been laid off. Maybe you took some time to spend with family or was taking care of a ill family member. Maybe you wanted to use your skills and abilities in a different capacity. There are many acceptable reasons for leaving a job, and a few examples of other reasons that a hiring manager would view positively: career change, seeking more responsibility and growth opportunities, company reorganization, better work-life balance. Be sure not to fall to any of the following when you respond. No matter how well you think the interview is going or how much the manager puts you at ease, do not complain or criticize about your past manager or workplace. Now, let's talk about greatest strengths. Greatest strengths. What are your greatest strengths? The main reason interviewers ask this question is to identify whether your strengths align with the needs of the company and the job's responsibilities. When you are asked questions about your strengths, discuss attributes that will best qualify you for the position and set you apart from other candidates. An example, attention to detail is my strength. I give my full attention to each of my responsibilities and make sure not to rush through tasks. Because of this, my projects are successfully completed with a high degree of accuracy. Another common interview question, how do you handle disagreements or conflicts at work? The employer is looking for how well you can communicate. Show them that you can stay calm while understanding the other person's perspective. That you're able to think logically and don't take things personally. Also, that you're keeping the company's best interest in mind. Here's an example. When faced with a conflict, I like to ask questions and understand my coworkers' perspective. This helps keep the situation calm, helps them feel like they're being heard, and after this, I found that it's much easier to come to an agreement or compromise while both staying a lot calmer. So now I'm going to turn this back over to Verona, and she's going to be speaking on closing the interview.
Anne has provided some excellent examples of work from home interview questions. Now, at this point, you become the closer, closing your interview with confidence. Hopefully you're feeling good about the interview at this point, and in some cases, you may just be glad it's over. Here are some suggestions regarding closing the interview with confidence. Ask about the next steps in the hiring process and how soon a decision will be made. Express your interest in becoming a part of the team now that you've heard more about the position. And thank the interviewer for their time and express that you look forward to hearing from them soon. You can also ask if there is a start date that they have in mind for the position. After closing with confidence, we now enter the follow-up phase. Here are some follow-up tips for after the interview. Immediately notate the important points discussed during the interview. Send a thank you email within 24 to 48 hours. Email the recruiter if you did not hear back within the time frame that they've given you. And respond positively, even if they don't hire you. Ask to be considered for other positions. Keep in mind that you may be called back for a second interview, so take the time to jot down notes after your interview that may be significant to remember, just in case you return for a second interview or are hired. Here's an example of a thank you note that can be used as a follow-up. Dear interviewer, thank you for meeting with me or calling me to discuss the customer service representative position. I enjoyed our conversation and I'm very excited about the opportunity to join your team. Best regards. Anne and I have enjoyed sharing interview tips for a successful interview with you today. We wish you all the best with your interviews and hope that something we've shared bridges the gap between you and a position that's a good fit for you. Before we get to some questions and answers, we wanted to let you know about some resources and our different divisions that may be helpful in your job search. If you aren't currently one of our clients, but you receive SSDI or SSI disability, and you're curious if employment options can help you with our free services, you can visit our website at myemploymentoptions.com and click Apply to submit an application. We also have two other divisions for those not on SSDI or SSI. The next slide talks about Ask MEO. One of the free services we offer is help with preparation for interviews. If you are already a client of MEO and have questions about the webinar, please reach out to your assigned MEO employment counselor. We know that some of you may not be receiving SSDI or SSI disability, or you may not qualify for our free services through the Ticket to Work program. So we wanted to share some other resources with you as well. Ask MEO is our free referral resource division. It was created during the pandemic to help job seekers who are experiencing employment challenges and who do not receive SSDI or SSI. You can schedule a free 15-minute employment assessment call with a resource specialist, and afterwards, based on the call, helpful resources can be emailed to you. Another resource that is available to you can be found on our website. If you hover over resources at the top and then click on helpful links and resources. We will also be sending a follow-up email to you in about 2 weeks. You will be able to click on all the links that you see in today's slides. For those who do not receive SSDI or SSI, we also want to make you aware of another division we have. MEO Staffing is our general staffing agency created to help job seekers who are not on SSDI or SSI to find suitable employment. The types of positions MEO Staffing has depend on the employers they are working with. Currently, MEO Staffing is primarily recruiting for candidates who are seeking full-time employment, have a college degree, no major gaps in work history, and are resume ready. To learn more or submit a resume, visit meostaffing.com. We would love to connect with everyone on social media. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We share our free events, hot jobs, industry news, tips, and our new blog series. Just click blog at the top of our myemploymentoptions.com website, and you can join me on my journey from existing to living through the MEO Ticket to Work program, from SSDI to working a job that I love, and presenting for you today, which is an absolute honor. When we send out the follow-up email to everyone in a few weeks, you will also be able to click the links on this slide to be taken to our social media pages. Ann and I will now cover some questions we received from your registrations. Tell us, Ann, what's our first question from our listeners today?
Sure. So we've got a question from Julia. Julia asked, how can I practice mock interviews for a variety of jobs and a variety of questions? Julia, my suggestion would be to research the company that you may come across some information on previous interview questions. Now, that's not to say that all or some will be asked, but it will give you an idea of what may be asked. You can also Google most commonly asked questions in the interview. Also, if you have a family member or friend, get with them and practice. Also, something that you can do as well, look into the mirror when speaking. This allows you to see your facial expressions and hand gestures, as well as your posture. Mock interviews, whether with someone who has industry-specific knowledge and experience, or even just a family member or friend, can help you gain valuable feedback on your strengths and areas for improvement in interviewing. Julia, just treat it like a real interview, and I'm certain that you're going to do fine. Next, we have Lisa. Lisa says, what are some good questions to ask a person conducting the interview? That's a great question, Lisa. It's good to have a few specific questions to ask your interviewer. The worst thing that you could say is, nope, I'm good. So it could be, what is the day in the life of this role? Are there opportunities for advancement? What are the next steps in the interview? Maybe what biggest challenges that someone in this role would face? So interviews work best when they're in a conversation. So don't be afraid to pose questions when it makes sense throughout the conversation. Plus, you don't want to sound like you're reading the questions off of some sort of internet list rather than having a real conversation. Remember, unless it was discussed by the interviewer, it is usually best not to bring up pay, time off, etc., until an offer's been made. Lisa, I do hope I was able to give you a couple examples of questions to ask during your interview. And also, I wanted to share that on our website, we do have past webinars listed that you can listen to regarding several different topics. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Verona, and she's going to take a couple questions.
Thanks, Ann. What can you say in an interview to acknowledge that you have a disability and to put the interviewer more at ease? This question stuck out to me as one who has a disability. My suggestion would be to focus on your abilities. The reason you applied for the job and your skill set, it transcends any visible or invisible barriers. I believe your confidence in what you can do and bring to the table can shift the focus from your disability to your ability to effectively perform the job. That within itself can put the interviewer at ease, and hopefully you too. If the job and the company environment are the right fit for you, and if it's not the right fit, that's okay. Don't stop searching for an environment that appreciates what you can do. Thank you so much for that question. And then we have another one. We received some similar questions regarding how to really make a good impression during a video interview. We've already shared quite a few tips to answer this question, but as a recap and additional tips, think of the video interview as it's just a conversation, as Ann shared with us. Be confident, but not arrogant in communicating your abilities. Speak clearly and look directly into the camera. Be professional, but authentic. I can't make you any promises on this additional tip, but at the end of 2 of my past interviews, I closed with, I really want this job. Those weren't just words. I really wanted the jobs, and I got them both. As I said, no promises on that, but you can use it if you want. Okay, that's it for our questions and answers today. On behalf of MEO, Ann and I would like to thank you all so much for joining us today. We appreciate the time you've invested in learning more about how to make your interviews successful ones. This concludes our interview tips webinar. Please watch for our follow-up email. In about 2 weeks, you should receive the presentation slides along with a recording to your inbox. Again, thank you so much for attending our webinar today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.